Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. Buckle up, we got a lot to cover. Ton of information to go over in this video as far as these two projects are concerned. Of course, this is the Remington 700 ADL. Again, did a video on this rifle specifically, as well as the Browning X-Bolt Max Long Range. The ADL is from late 70s, early 80s. I believe it was like 77 to 81, somewhere in that time frame is when it was manufactured. And then the Browning X-Bolt Max Long Range. This one, I think I was able to track down that I believe it was released like in 2019, maybe. So obviously older, newer. That's how we're approaching this. 1 in 10 twist on the Remington 700 ADL, 1 in 7.5 twist on the X-Bolt Max Long Range. So where to begin? Got a lot of range results that I want to go over and show you guys as far as group size, velocity data, all of that fun stuff. Right now, as these rifles sit, I've got 80 rounds on the Browning, and of course that was brand new when I got it. It had, it only been test fired at the factory, but so I put 80 rounds on it. And then the Remington 700, I don't know, maybe close to that, and it was used, right? Well used. So I think what I want to touch on first, though, before I show you guys the range results, the group size, velocity data, all of that fun stuff, is, let's see here, get this chair out of the way. But so here's a selection of bullets that I plan on. I use that term loosely because, again, you guys have been around for a little while. You know that I say, hey, I'm going to plan on doing X, Y, Z, and then we do ABC. Who knows, right? But these are some 277 diameter bullets that I had sitting on the shelf that I'm semi-interested in testing, okay, in either one of these rifles, okay? But starting on the left, this guy, that's the Barnes 129 grain LRX, okay? That's the lightest bullet out of the bunch. So that's the 129, and then that's the Speer Grand Slam 130 grain bullet. That's the Hornady Interlock 130 grain flat base. That is the Nosler 130 grain partition, Nosler 130 grain ballistic tip, Sierra 130 grain Pro Hunter. It's a flat base as well. Also the Nosler partition is a flat base. It's got that very slight, very slight, I won't even call that a boat tail, essentially flat base. Then we have the 130 grain Hornady SST, the 130 grain North Fork, the bonded bullet from North Fork Bullets, 140 grain Hornady SST, and the Speer 150 grain boat tail Spitzer. So I pulled all these bullets out because I just wanted to check where the touch point is in both of these rifles. I've already gone over this. There's a big difference between the two in terms of the free bore and the touch point that you're gonna get depending on what bullet you're running. And that's why this thing comes in handy, okay? It is so easy just to measure and get a pretty close, or at least accurate enough measurement to where you can understand, okay, this is where I'm making contact with the lands, and it allows you to adjust your overall length accordingly. Because with those Sierra 140 grain Game Kings, those hollow point boat tail bullets, just the profile of the bullet, it's more of a blunt end toward the ogive, so it makes contact pretty early in a sort of a short overall length in this rifle, okay? 3.160, all right? 3.160, that's the touch point. So I loaded those at 3.150 in my latest round of testing, so 10 thousandths, right? In this rifle, it's 3.260, loaded them at 3.200 overall length because that's what Sierra recommends in their manual. So I'm already seating that bullet 50 thousandths shorter in this rifle over here, but I felt comfortable doing that. Again, I think I went over that in the video where I talk about, you know, the charge weight. So I started off low enough where I felt okay doing that. So those are the big differences between the two. Both have 22-inch barrels. Outside of that, that's really about it in terms of differences of the rifle, other than age, obviously. Tolerancing, I'm sure, is a little bit tighter on that Browning. What else? Oh, all of the loads that I've shot so far have been in Sig Sauer brass. Some of the loads for like the Remington 700s, some of those, or no, I believe it might have been the Remington 700. I'm trying to remember now if I loaded up the first batch of test loads in some old Sig Sauer brass. I know I did for the Browning, I was shooting 50 rounds just to foul, you know, break in the barrel essentially. But the rest of these test loads have been in this new Sig Sauer. It's prime brass from AmericanReloading.com. I ordered 2 100 count boxes of this stuff and I ended up getting 222 pieces. So, you know, 22 pieces more than what I paid for, which was really nice because that just drops the cost per piece even lower. So I prepped all of this brass the same way. Again, 222 pieces. Went ahead and prepped it all the same way. And I did a video specifically on how I prepped that brass. Came back. So far I've loaded up, the powders I've used is IMR 4350, IMR 4955, and Vitavori N560. Oh, also Winchester 760 as well. So I've loaded up a few different powders, a few different powder and bullet combinations. So let's kind of go to the targets so you guys can see that. And I'll start with the Browning X-Bolt. So that's a 38 shot group. Again, that's 38 out of those first 50 rounds that I loaded up just to break in the barrel. And the reason it's 38 is because I had 12 of the 150 grain Hornady SST. I thought I had a ton of them, and apparently I didn't. And I didn't check before I loaded everything up. But what I did was I wanted to use Shooter's World 4350. So that's another powder. I forgot to mention that one. Shooter's World 4350 because they have load data with that powder and the Hornady 150 grain SST. It's the only 270 Winchester load data they have with that powder. So I picked just sort of a middle of the road charge, 50 grains, and went out and loaded up those 12. And I'd already dropped all the powder for all 50 rounds. So I had 50 cases with 50 grains of powder in them. And I only had 12 bullets, but I had plenty of the 140 grain SSTs. So I just threw those in there as well. So I had 12 of the 150s. I shot those on a different target. And then I shot all 38. I used those 12 basically to get the scope zeroed and everything. And then shot a 38 shot group with the 140s. Not bad. Not bad at all. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised, especially considering it was using Sig Sauer brass that I have no clue how many firings on it. And I just picked a random charge with that powder and then went out and, yeah, 38 rounds downrange on 2 different range trips. That's what we got. So good stuff there. But whenever I circled back and actually started testing other stuff, so that was with the Hornady SST. These groups are with the 140 grain Sierra Game King, those hollow point boat tail Game Kings that I just got in. They're pulled bullets from AmericanReloading.com. Again, did a video on those as well. This is with IMR 4955. This was the part where I was talking about I started low enough to where I felt comfortable seating that bullet 50 thousandths deeper into the case. So 49.5 grains is where I started, and you can see the velocity's pretty low, 25, 61.7. But the 3-shot group, it came in just over ½ inch, not bad. Went up, and I'm jumping a grain each time, so 50.5, that got me 26.62 and just under 3/4 of an inch. 51.5, we're at 27.26 and just under an inch, but you notice we're kind of shifting left. 52.5, we're at 27.68, just over an inch, right? So our group size is slowly opening up as we go up. And then the 53.5 grain charge came in at 28.71 and 0.307, 3-shot group. Now, my point of aim did shift quite a bit though. I was aiming here, right? So this is where we started, okay? We dropped a little bit to the left. Shifted to the left. Is a little high though relative to this one, but then here we drop back down, but again to the left even more, and then up here, you know, to the left even more, but super tight group, 0.307. So not bad at all. Good stuff there. I only have just literally enough powder to maybe load 3 or 4 more. With IMR 4955, I'm down to the last few kernels, so I'm just going to load this charge, the 53.5. I'm just going to load that back up, go out there, however many I have, I'm just going to shoot those. Just shoot them up because, you know, whatever, why not? Just to see if, I think that's probably, not necessarily a fluke, but that's probably as good as that will do, right? You're probably looking at like the fraction of a percent, or the very small percentage of time that you would load up that combination and it would shoot like that, right? Somewhere in the bell curve, we're at the very extreme edge of how well this load would shoot. In my opinion, I think that's what we're looking at. But sticking with the X-Bolt, this was with Vitivori N560. So again, 140 grain Sierra Game King, hollow point version. Vitivori N560, started at 52 grains, and so we're 1.284 inches. 53 grains, just under an inch, barely came in under an inch. 54 grains, we're just under 9/10. Oh yeah, velocity, we're at 25.64, 26.43, 26.97. 4th group. And I shot it this way because I didn't know exactly where it would hit, right? Switching powders, I didn't know where this bullet was gonna hit, so that's why I started off shooting this one first. So that's why it's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. 55 grains, got us a 0.388 inch group, 27.71. So really good stuff. Couple of groups in the 0.3s with those pulled bullets with the Browning X-Bolt. Right, a couple of different powders, a couple groups in 0.3s. I'll take it. And then 5th group, it opened up, which I'm not gonna say barrel heat was an excuse. I'll just say I didn't wait maybe a minute or two, a couple minutes in between this 3-shot group and this 3-shot group. I waited basically a standard amount of time, standard for me, you know, 5 minutes or so in between each group here. But then on this 5th group, I was running out of time. I had to get these 3 shots fired and go get, you know, grab my target and hit the road. I literally had no time. So I didn't let the barrel cool down like my normal process. But yeah, we're at 1.167, 56 grains. We're at 28.50 on the velocity. So pretty good velocity results there with that 140 grain bullet. Those are the X-Bolt groups, because again, remember this is a 38 shot group, and then the 12 shots that I used to get the scope zeroed, so that put me at 50. And then these other groups, right, 15 and 15 got me 30, so I'm at 80 shots. Those are the 80 shots that I fired through that Browning X-Bolt so far. So now let's switch over. We actually don't need this target anymore, so that's some 280 Ackley stuff up there. Now we're gonna switch over to the Remington 700 ADL. target and show you guys, let's see here. Walk through, there's some ugly stuff in some of this testing. But you know, that's why you test. So this target is the 130 grain Nosler partition. Again, those are seconds from Nosler, so they were purchased as seconds. They're not pull bullets, but they're just seconds. So for whatever reason, there's a blemish or an issue with the bullet, they can't, or they don't sell them in their retail packaging like brand new bullets. So I picked them up a long time ago. They're seconds. And this is the testing that I did. Oh, that's that bullet, whichever one it was over there that I showed you. Those are seconds. This is with Winchester 760. This is a combination I will not try again because I had hang fires in every single group. I don't necessarily understand why. Oh, I didn't write the velocities on these, but yeah, it was weird because I didn't go extremely low in the charge weight. These seemed like reasonable charge weights, so I have no clue what was going on with the ignition on this day. But first group, 1.379 inches. Second group, 2.229. Third group, miraculously under an inch. I had a hang fire in that group, and miraculously under an inch. And then fourth group, just garbage, over 2 inches again. Fifth group, 1.633. So not much we're going to talk about here. Overall average was 1.670. Average of everything, 1.670. So ugly. Get it out of here. We don't want to look at that. What else? Switching over to here we go. I believe I've already shown this target and these results, but this is with the same bullet, the Nosler partition. This is the tale of two different powders here. With the same bullet, this is IMR 4350, and starting off at 51 grains, came in just under 3/4 of an inch. 52 grains, just over half an inch there. 53 grains, it opened up to just over an inch. 54 grains back down to 6/10 there, and then 55 grains was the best group, 0.437. Good stuff out of IMR 4350 and those Nosler partition seconds, 130 grain bullet. Average group size 0.682. Not too shabby. That had me pretty excited right out of the gate with that ADL. I was really pleased with that. And then I shot that Winchester 760 test, and I'm like, holy cow, that's garbage. So this is a perfect example, right? This is why you test. This is why you have to find what bullet and powder combination works well in your rifle. So like Tim over at Little Crow Gun Works says all the time, don't get married to one powder or whatever, or one bullet. I mean, you can try to make the stuff work, but you're better off testing a few different combinations to figure out what's going to shoot well in that rifle. So 2 different powders, same bullet, vastly different results. So there you go. Oh, and the velocities, again, should have wrote them down, but I know we did get over 2,900 feet per second. We didn't break 3,000 feet per second with that 130 grain bullet, but when it shoots this good across the board, yeah, that's fine. That'll get the job done. Let's see, next up, this is again the Remington 700. This is with IMR 4955. So do a little comparison here between the X-Bolt and the Remington 700, right? These were the X-Bolt groups with IMR 4955. Not bad at all, right? Pretty good across the board. Not so much. Remington didn't like it. Didn't like that combination. And it's the exact same charge weights. I tested the exact same charge weights, so 49.5 up to 53.5, jumping a grain each time. This was the first group, came in just over an inch. Second group, 123, 1.761. I didn't measure these the other day when I showed this target. I think I said they were too terrible to measure. Well, doing this video, I decided to go ahead and measure them. Let's see, third group, 1.294. Fourth group, just absolutely terrible, almost 3 inches. Fifth group, 1.725, average 1 3/4 inch across all those combinations. So yeah, you can definitely see those Sierra Game Kings did not shoot well with that powder in the Remington 700. Now, once we switched over to Vihtavuori N560, however, check out these results. Gotta give me some coffee. It's 1919. Gotta get me some coffee. That's my evening coffee. So, Vihtavuori N560 started at 52 grains. Yeah, 25.32 on the velocity, half-inch group. 25.89 on the velocity, so slow, right? Slow, but stacking them in there as 1/4 inch group, you know, 0.257. Not too bad for the old ADL pulled bullets. Yeah, not bad. And an old, what was that, Weaver micro track or whatever, 2-10 scope. I'd say that's pretty good. Third group, it opened up. The third shot was off the paper, but I measured it before I took the target off the target backer. So 1.714, and we were at 26.86. Fourth group, 1.215, 27.32. Fifth group, just over an inch, 1.141, and just under 2,800, so 27.98. So yeah, in general, right, it seems like maybe the Remington 700 like to be a little bit lower on the old charge weight range there with the N560. Seemed to shoot really well back-to-back groups, and then opened up just a little bit. Now, that's something that I could possibly explore, maybe going just a touch faster, see if it would tighten back up, but I'm not that concerned about it because the 130 grain nozzler partition shot so well, right, with IMR 4350. This was just testing those pull bullets that I just got in. So, lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of groups, a lot of combinations. That's why I said buckle up and get ready. Going over a ton of stuff. So we'll circle back to what I was talking about, these different touch points, so you can see the massive difference. This is what's listed in the manual for all of these different bullets, right? All of these different bullet I went to the bullet manufacturers to get their load data to see what overall length they tested these bullets at, right? So that's what this column is. This column is the Remington 700 ADL touch point column, and this is the Browning X-Bolt Max Long Range. Now, again, the purpose of doing this is so that I can look at the list and start to pick and choose what bullets I want to shoot in which rifle, right? I'm not going to test all these in both rifles. I'm just not going to do it because, in my opinion, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do it that way. Like the Barnes 129 grain LRX, I'm really more interested in testing that bullet in the Browning, right? So the Barnes, let's see, maybe something like the Nosler, 130 grain ballistic tip, which I've only got like 15 of those left, so it's just going to be, you know, 5 3-shot groups, and then I'm out of that bullet. Maybe the 130 SST. I think we need to definitely test that combination or that bullet in that Browning, since it seemed like it shot the 140 really, really well, considering it was just a random charge of Shooter's World 4350 thrown in there. Yeah, so that's kind of what I was thinking. That's more or less, you know, some of the bullets I was thinking about trying in that Browning X-Bolt. Now, for the Remington, right, I mean, you can see our jump numbers are a lot higher, right? you know, one I would definitely want to try in the Remington would be that North Fork 130 grain bonded bullet, because it's only got 90 thousandths to go as far as this jump, right? Its touch point from their recommended overall length to the touch point, it's only 90 thousandths. So that's definitely something that we could play around with, right? But then some of these other ones, look, I mean, 200 thousandths, right? 217 thousandths with the Hornady 140 SST and the touch point in the Remington. I mean, some of these jump numbers they're, you know, pretty large, especially when you switch over to the Browning and you see like that Spear 150, Spear recommends 3.270. Well, the touch point's 3.225. So that's what I'm talking about, where this thing is so critical, in my opinion, right? Because you might have that bullet and go, man, I'm just going to load that thing up at 3.270. You're jamming into the lands, okay? So, and you don't even realize it, right? You go load up all those rounds, and then you go to load one, and you might not even be able to close the bolt, right? It might be jamming to the point where you can't even get the bolt closed, and it's like, uh-oh, not good. What'd I do? Now you got all these rounds loaded up. So, that type of stuff, right? Let's see, what are some other ones? Like that North Fork, right? They recommend 3.340 for their overall length. Touch point 3.308. So again, I'd have to seat it shorter than what they recommend. So stuff like that, right? You really, really want to pay attention to that number. That's pretty critical, which is why I've touched on that in a couple of videos now. But the marathon is over. I've got the Charge Master warmed up over here. About to start dropping some powder for some follow-on testing with some of these. I've got 80 rounds down that one. I'm probably gonna load up another 20, go shoot another 20. Once I get to the 100 mark, I'll just bring it back and scrub the barrel down pretty good. And then probably won't get super serious about load development, but maybe a little more semi-serious. Yeah, we'll leave it at that. And I'll probably do the same thing with this. Once I get another 20, 30 rounds on it, I'll just scrub the barrel and see how they do. It would be nice to load up, maybe come back after I test another combination in this rifle, load up the exact same combination with that 130 partition with IMR 4350, scrub the barrel completely down, right? Start back over, super clean barrel, and then see how, go and reshoot that exact same test. Obviously environmentals would be different because it'd be a different range day, but just to see what type of results we would get. So that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. That's a cool hat. I know where you can get one. Go check out the website, alabamareloader.com. We'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.